What's up, everyone? Thanks for joining us for episode 2 of the Roll Stable video podcast. If you haven't yet, be sure to check out our first episode where we sat down with Mules baseball senior Eric Webb. You can find that video on UCMathletics.com, our new UCM Athletics mobile app, and on the UCM Athletics YouTube page. Audio is also available up on SoundCloud. We have another great show for you coming up today. I'll introduce our guest in just a little bit, but first a quick look at what's going on around UCM Athletics. This week, the UCM Literacy Team kicks off its 29th year, delivering new books to all local elementary schools. It was announced just the other day that former Mules football quarterback Eric Cerneski will be inducted into the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame next month. Eric played at UCM from 2006 to 2010 and was named the Harlan Hill winner in 2010 as the top player in Division II. He still holds numerous UCM passing records, including single-season and career completion, yards, and touchdown records. And that brings us to today's guest. She has the rare and distinguished honor of being both a national champion and a 4.0 student athlete from Jennies Basketball, Gigi McAtee. How's it going, Gigi?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well. We're fortunate to catch Gigi in between classes. She's kind enough to take some time to talk to us today. Let's start with this fall. What are classes and practice been like the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, so my classes have been pretty normal. I'm all in class. Haven't had any hybrids or onlines. I know that's not necessarily the case for everyone. But as for basketball workouts, we just started doing conditioning and weights and some small group workouts on top of just getting in and getting up shots on our own and doing some scrimmaging and stuff.
Have you noticed anything kind of different on campus this year compared to your first 3 years?
Yeah, I mean, besides the obvious of everybody wearing masks, it just feels like there's less students. I know a lot of people went online, so I would say that that's the biggest difference.
And you have a really new team for 2020-21. Yes. I think it's 7 freshmen coming in. What has that been like? Kind of, what do you think their first impressions have been like of UCM?
Yeah, it's been interesting for sure. I think they're getting along really well. It's nice that there's 7 of them, so they kind of stick together and help each other out. And then it's been an interesting dynamic, but they all have fit in very well with the team. Classes are going well for them. We're just excited to be able to get in the gym and practice and form that team chemistry.
What do you think your role has kind of been in these first few weeks as a senior with 7 new freshmen?
Yeah, I mean, I think I for sure stepped into a bigger leadership role this year with some of our seniors being gone. And so I've just been trying to get that team chemistry. I know that from my first year here, I kind of came into a team that that had played together already. And so I don't feel like I've been on a team that's this new. So just trying to work through stuff and figure out how we can get good team chemistry and play together.
Yeah, you really stepped in and have been a part of some really amazing Jennies basketball teams for 3 years, 3 straight regional appearances. And you had some great leaders on all those teams, and I'd say even some different ones from your first year with Kelsey and Kay to Paige and Sid and Mo and Meg. What do you think your leadership style is, and what have you learned from them?
Yeah, I mean, I've learned different lessons from all of them for sure. I think Kelsey and Kay, their leadership style was a lot of doing. Like, they showed us what to do, and they might not have been as vocal as per se Mo and Meg, but they really were like, we're going to work hard, and so you see how to work hard. Not that they all worked hard, but I think Mo and Meg would be more vocal. And so just taking from different things like that. But it's definitely been new, trying to find my own style, especially with 7 freshmen, and just figuring out the best way to go about doing that and be a leader of this new team.
Yeah, I'd say your role has definitely evolved in 3 to 4 years. For your first couple of years, you played a lot, maybe not a lot of minutes, but you got in a lot of games, and then became a starter last year. What sort of things did you learn from your first 2 years where you weren't playing those big minutes that you then started to as a junior?
Yeah, I think the most important thing was that I knew I needed to work for what I got, and so I think the coaches do a good job of being straightforward with you, and I knew if I wanted a chance to be a bigger part of this team playing-wise that I needed to work on my game. And so just watching, Paige's work ethic and Mo's work ethic and all of them just helped me to try and kind of transform my own game to be able to play.
Was there anyone in those first couple of years that kind of took you under their wing and kind of showed you the ropes?
Yeah, I would say Mo and Paige for sure. Mo, obviously, being my cousin, I was just comfortable talking to her and getting ideas, going to get up shots with her. And then Paige, obviously, I watched her as a player, which was extremely helpful. But then as a GA now, I've done some workouts with her, and just being able to kind of pick her brain as such a great player for Jennies basketball has been a blessing.
What was your kind of relationship like with Morgan as kids? Were you close and
Yes.
you talked about going to UCM together maybe when she was there, or
yeah.
did it just kind of happen?
So it had never really been talked about. We were extremely close as kids, always hanging out together on holidays. Just our family is very close in general.
Because you're from Manhattan, she's from Liberty. That's
2 hours apart.
2 hours?
Yeah. So, we were very close, but it had never been brought up. And then when I started looking into the different schools, going on some visits, I was doing that in the summer, so I wasn't really getting to see the teams per se. And so being able to talk to Mo and be like, do you think I'd fit in? What's the program like? And kind of having the inside scoop was nice there, and I knew she'd be honest with me, so I felt comfortable with my decision.
Did having Morgan here play any kind of a role in you signing here? For
sure, yeah. I just, again, like having somebody that I trusted that could kind of tell me how things are going to be run very straightforward, I knew that this would be the right place.
Was she kind of pushing you toward coming to UCF?
No, she understands the recruiting process better than anybody, and so I think she knew that I needed to pick a place that was going to be right for me, but I'm sure she was happy when I decided UCM.
Now I also want to, you mentioned the recruiting process and how everyone's is different. You probably had a unique experience watching your brother's recruiting process. He played 4 years at Kansas State. What can you tell us about him playing at K-State Division I and the difference in the two recruiting processes?
Yeah, Pearson, he was looking at some Division IIs, and for him, I think growing up being a K-State ball boy and watching all the games and having my dad on the team, he just he felt drawn to play there, and when he was offered a walk-on spot, he jumped at it, and I don't think he would ever go back on that decision. But as for me, I knew that Division II was the right place.
Were there other maybe D1s or D2s that were looking at Pearson?
Yeah, there were a couple MIAA schools for sure that were looking at him. He went to a couple other out-of-state Division I schools, but being so close to home, and he really just wanted to play for K-State.
Was that ever a dream of yours to play for K-State? Was that ever a possibility?
Yeah,
something you thought about?
I would say as a kid, going to the camps, I really looked up to all the players there. As I got further into my recruiting process and further into high school, I would just say I was a little more realistic with myself. I knew that to be on a team that I wanted to make an impact on, that D2 was for sure the option for me. And, after winning the national championship, I knew that was probably the right choice for me.
Yeah, what a great first year.
Yes,
winning the national
for sure.
championship. Kind of can't top that.
Nope.
Talking a little bit about that year compared to last year and the MIAA championship and how kind of quickly your season also ended.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about the two teams, the national championship team compared to last year's team, which we don't know how that would have ended?
Right. I would say the two teams are very different in that my freshman year, like I said earlier, was a team that had all played together. They had 2 girls graduate and then 4 of us freshmen that came in, but the core was really still there. So they kind of knew the system. Last year, obviously, we had some transfers and things like that come in. But as different as the two teams were, I felt I had the same feeling. We were on the same track as that national championship team, and it'll always be that what if, but I was very confident in our team last year.
And definitely one of the similarities between the two teams is the coaching staffs.
Right.
What can you say about your coaches and how well they've trained you and led you to those big games?
Yeah, I think the biggest positive about our coaching staff that I like to talk about is how different each coach is, and so they kind of...
I was thinking that same thing the other day.
Yes, they just pick each other up in different places, and so it's nice to have kind of a balance across all of the coaches. And they're people that we feel very comfortable around. We like to hang out all together as a team, including with the coaching staff and having dinners and things like that.
Yeah, they all have such different personalities,
Yes.
and you can kind of pick and choose, which one you need to go to for which
Exactly.
a certain issue or problem that you're having, what you want to
Yeah.
discuss with them. Who do you sort of relate to more, do you think?
I would probably say in general it would be Coach Kenzie, just because she was a young women's basketball player. But it's just tough to say. I mean, Coach S has been such a great attribute to our team because of like how motherly she is, I would say. And so she kind of is the person to go to when you have any like personal problems, or even before games. She's kind of the hype woman in a sense in the locker room. And then anything basketball wise, I would feel comfortable with, all of the coaches, but Coach Nick and Coach Slifer, I feel comfortable walking into their office at any time of the day.
The end of last year, obviously, it ended at one point, it was real exciting winning the NCAA championship, and then ended almost in heartbreak because you didn't get to play and finish out the year. What were sort of the emotions of that week? Because I think you, if I remember correctly, you won on a Sunday, and then I think it was Wednesday is when it all kind of came crashing down.
Yeah, so I think I will remember that day for the rest of my life probably, because we were in shoot-around for our game that day, or practice for a game the next day. I can't...
It was practice for the next day.
Practice for the next day, and we only had an hour, and all of the regional decorations were up. We had new basketballs, a new ball rack. Stands were out. It was just very exciting. We weren't sure if we would have fans or not, and quite honestly, I didn't care because we were playing. And we just wanted to play. We wanted to prove ourselves. We were excited to host, and I just remember in the middle of that practice, the mood kind of changed. The coaches were looking at each other, and we knew what was happening. And
yeah, you had kind of a later practice. I think there were a bunch of teams that how it works is that each team gets an hour to practice the day before.
Mm-hmm.
There were probably about 4 or 5, maybe even 6 teams that had already practiced throughout the morning and the afternoon. Then you guys take the floor. Do you remember hearing rumors before you even started practicing? Was there a sense of, what are we even doing here? We know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, going into that practice, we knew that there was a meeting happening at the start of our practice with, I think it was the Division 1, more NCAA Division 1. And so obviously it could be assumed that Division 2 would probably follow. But going into it, I was hopeful. We just knew that there was going to be some sort of a decision made during practice. And so at that point, once we noticed the coaches looking at each other and the mood kind of going down, and I just remember we were doing this drill over and over, just running through our motion offense. And it was just like we kept going, and at some point we all realized, like, what are we doing? Like, we know what's happening. So.
Yeah, I was down there when Kathy Anderson told the team that we're not going to be playing. It was a very emotional moment.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to the good news, which
Yes.
was the 2020 MIAA Tournament Championship.
Yes.
What did that mean to you? That's the first time that Jennies Basketball had won that championship in 30 years. Was that something you were aware of? Were you kind of playing for that? What were your thoughts going into that championship game?
Yeah, I mean, definitely thinking of the last year against Fort Hays and just knowing the outcome of that game, and then my freshman year losing in the first round, and just knowing the potential our team had. We knew that was going to be a big step for us, and we had made it that far. It was a huge step for regionals and hosting that. So there was some pressure there, but I think we all felt oddly relaxed. We knew we were confident. We knew what we could do, and we knew we just needed to go out there and play. And so having that accomplishment was amazing. Yeah.
It was a very exciting game. You were down for much of it.
Yes.
What do you remember about that game?
Yeah, I just remember a girl on Emporia State hitting a lot of threes on us, and coming back as a team. I think we ran one of our plays that we have that is kind of just Mo and Meg play off of it, probably 10 plus times down the court in a row, and I just kept calling it, and it kept working. And so it was very exciting. We could feel the momentum increasing, and just that I had confidence that we were going to win that game.
And I know there was a good chance we weren't going to have fans at regionals,
Mm-hmm.
and then we ended up not even playing.
Mm-hmm.
But that championship game had the largest crowd for
Yes.
Division II of the whole 1920 season.
Yes.
What did that mean to you to have that kind of fan support?
Yeah, shout out the Jennies fans. That was an unbelievable game. The amount of support we had. I remember after winning that game, running to the crowd, out to the crowd and waving and saying thank you, and just like how much we appreciated having that support. It was a great moment.
What made that 2020 team so special, and how far do you really think you could have gone?
Yeah. I think all my teams here, something that's kind of been a staple of the program is the chemistry we have. It says something when we spend all day practicing, lifting, playing games, things like that, and then outside of basketball we choose to spend time together because we really do enjoy each other's company. And so I think that plays a huge part on the court, that we have that camaraderie. And so I personally, I'm a little bit biased. I think we could have gone all the way. I had so much confidence in that team. I think we were, just going up from there. Our momentum was increasing. We were about to host the regionals. I think
hosting would have played definitely a big part of it,
right.
Knowing that we were going to have the home court advantage. I
right.
think would have been such a big help into at least getting to the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
You talked about team chemistry. Are there challenges with that this year with 7 freshmen? And, you lost 2 big pieces in Mo and Meg, and I'm sure people are asking how you're going to, fill those spots, and you have these 7 new girls. What is the chemistry like, and who's taking on those roles, filling in for Mo and Meg?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to say with the chemistry. Obviously, we've all hung out outside of basketball with masks, social distancing, but it's hard to say because we haven't been able to really get on the floor besides some scrimmaging, which doesn't have much structure, And so I don't think it's going to be a problem. I'm looking forward to doing that. And as for filling Mo and Meg spots, being such impactful players, I think it's going to be more than 2 people that do it. I think it's going to take, multiple people to fill the scoring and the defensive and all of those roles that they did such a good job of. And I'm confident in our freshmen that we have now. Watching them play, they're hard workers and they're great basketball players. So I think they'll fit in well, and we just got to get to work.
So you don't think that anyone's going to be scoring 50 this year like Megan did?
I would be so happy if we did, but I think it'll be more of a team effort.
What was that like, being on the floor to see someone score 50 points in a game?
That was insane. I just remember dribbling the ball up the court and being like, "Where's Megan? Where's Megan?" I gotta find her.
It's just a random December game against an NAIA school, and that's why you got to show up to Jennies basketball games. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, that was actually my birthday, so I had to give her some grief afterwards for having such a big milestone on my birthday. But no, I was so happy for her. That was an awesome memory.
Going back to that national championship team, your very first year, won the title. Do you remember that experience? I'm sure you do remember that experience, that week, almost 2 full weeks in Sioux Falls, because the regional was played there as well. What can you say about the emotions of that week and that championship game?
Yeah, it was just like a roller coaster of emotions, especially in the regionals. It was just, it was always one game at a time. Like, you take it one game at a time, and we were happy to make regionals, and obviously everyone's goal is a national championship, but there were a lot of good teams there. And we weren't necessarily ranked number 1. So
number 6, actually.
Right. So, we were ecstatic when we won the regionals, and, we knew we had to take it one game at a time, but I think as it went along, we were like, oh my gosh, what is happening almost? But yeah, it was an awesome feeling, and yeah, roller coaster of emotions for sure.
When did it go from kind of just being happy to be here to, hey, oh my God, we can win this thing? Yeah.
It's hard to say, but I would say that, the biggest point is in the national championship. The game's close, and when we started pulling away, it was almost like it hit you, and you were like, oh my gosh, we might actually win the national championship against a team that's 73-0. So, yeah.
And what about when Ashland actually started off the game 7 for 7 and
right.
had, I think, an 11-point lead at one point in the first quarter?
Exactly. It was kind of like we either got to kick it into gear. We can't just be be happy that we made it at this point. Like, we're here and we need to compete and we're better than this. And it was kind of like switched to like a mode of, okay, we can actually do this. Like, we need to kick it into gear.
Was there anyone, in particular that was like, hey, now is the time, we can't be wasting any more time, or was it just kind of a collective thing?
I mean, I would say at that point, like, having, Kelsey, Kay, Paige, Mo, and Meg, out on the court, like, timeouts, we're all in there and we're like, let's go, like, we're getting it going, and it's a collective thing, but, those girls, they decided, like, we're not giving up here, we're not stopping here, we're not done.
Now, I mentioned at the top of this, you're a 4.0 student. What does your future hold? You're, I believe, a biology major?
Yes,
okay.
Yeah.
What are you looking to do, after you graduate?
So I'm currently applying to medical schools. So just waiting to hear back on some interviews for that. And then, because I took the MCAT this summer, and so the process kind of goes, I'll get an interview, and then they'll let me know sometime late winter or early spring on that, and then hopefully next fall I'll be starting medical school.
Has that process or timeline kind of changed because of COVID, or is your interview schedule still kind of how they normally do it?
Yeah, the interviews are still the same, but time-wise, but they're all online now. So usually you would have like a tour of the school and then, in-person interviews, and so it'll be all online now.
Now, your dad is in the medical field, is that right?
Yes.
What does he do?
He's an orthopedic surgeon.
Okay.
So.
Did that play a role in what you wanted to do, seeing him, as a kid?
For sure, yeah. He, just kind of having that realistic view of what it really is like to be a physician, and then, seeing him interact with people in the community and have that connection there has just been an awesome experience. And then he works with some K-State athletics, men's basketball and football, and a little bit of volleyball at K-State. So being able to see him do what he loves as a physician, but also be involved in sports was very appealing to me.
So would you say, is that kind of where your love for both the medical profession and sports came from, seeing him do medical work for
sure.
Sports teams?
Yeah, that, and then, both of my parents were college athletes, and so just kind of raised in that sense.
Do you know what kind of avenue you want to go down once you get to medical school?
I'm not sure. I shadowed and have worked for a couple different specialties, so we'll just see. We're just trying to get to medical school right now.
You think you'd rather work with kids or?
I mean, I think ideally at this point I would want to work with athletes, but
athletes, okay.
Yeah.
Not necessarily young kids.
Yeah.
Maybe high school, college age.
Yeah.
Athletes.
The nice thing about most of the specialties that I was working with this summer is that they see such a wide range of people, old to young, and athletes to non-athletes, and so I just enjoyed that part of it.
Can you tell us about some of the places you applied to? Are you looking to stay local, or are you really
Yeah.
willing to go anywhere?
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of research into it. Obviously, being from Kansas, I've applied to KU Med, and then a couple other schools around the area, Mizzou Med, and some farther away schools. But just trying to keep my options open, and I would be excited to go anywhere.
One other aspect of Jennies Basketball we haven't talked about yet that I think you guys have done a really great job with, especially the last couple of years, is your sense of community and the things that you guys do within Warrensburg. What can you say about that? What do you like about doing those community service projects?
Yeah. No, those are some of my favorite memories outside of basketball have been those community service projects that we've done, and a lot of times it's working with kids, and so it's been an awesome experience being able to kind of be a mentor or somebody that these kids can look up to, and just spending time with them, whether it's playing a basketball game, or outside at recess, or giving them high fives on the way into school, or even the literacy team especially has been awesome because we're talking about something important, that it's important to have an education and to read, but then also we get to talk to them. They ask us questions after we read the books, and so just being able to interact with the kids has been awesome.
So you're going to graduate this spring.
Yes.
You're going to be a national champion.
Yes.
Hopefully still a 4.0 student.
Yes.
you're going to have, this large sense of community and all the things you helped out with, within Warrensburg. What do you think is the legacy that you're leaving behind?
Ooh, that's a good question. I want to be remembered, in a sense, as somebody that was a team player in all aspects. So, I help out in my community when I can, and I'm there for my teammates, and, I'm a hard worker. And so I think that just being an example for those that come after me would be a blessing to leave behind that kind of a legacy.
Well, Gigi, always great catching up with you.
Yes,
I know
thank you.
You've got classes, practice you got to get to.
Yes.
Thanks again for coming on. Any final words?
Nope, thank you for having me.
Where can people follow you at?
Gigi McAtee or Gigi_McAtee on Instagram.
There you go, Gigi_McAtee on Instagram.
Yes.
For Gigi McAtee, producer Tony Manzo, I'm Joe Hoffman. Keep following UCM Athletics on social media for information, and tune in next time to the Roll Stable Video Podcast.